What if I told you that the story of the three wise men, the Magi, holds hidden truths, secrets buried in ancient prophecies and overlooked for centuries? What if their journey was not just a simple pilgrimage, but a fulfillment of prophecies that go beyond the commonly told tale? You know the story. The Magi, scholars and astrologers, saw a mysterious star in the east and traveled to Bethlehem, bringing gifts of gold, frankincense and myrrh for the newborn Jesus. But what if I told you that these wise men, these Magi, weren't just any scholars from the east, but kings from a land far deeper and more significant than most realize: Ethiopia. Yes, Ethiopia. Imagine this. What if their journey wasn't just about following a star, but about fulfilling ancient prophecies tied to their homeland? The Bible hints at this. In the book of Numbers, the star that guided the Magi is said to come from Jacob's lineage, and the prophet Balaam, a descendant of Cush, an ancient region linked to Ethiopia, spoke of this very star. The land of Cush, of Ethiopia, was known for its deep knowledge of the stars and celestial events. This leads us to ask, what if the Magi weren't just following any star, but one they had been anticipating for generations, based on centuries of astronomical and prophetic study? And then there's the significance of their gifts: gold, frankincense and myrrh, each one rich in symbolism, not just for the birth of Jesus, but for a much deeper spiritual and historical narrative. But what if these gifts carried an even greater weight? The idea that these gifts, gold, frankincense and myrrh, weren't just material offerings, but were part of a sacred legacy passed down through generations, from Adam himself to Noah, and finally to the Magi. What if these gifts had been preserved through time, representing the connection between the earliest days of humanity and the divine plan of salvation? Could this explain why one of the Magi was depicted as black in historical records, or why Ethiopia is often mentioned in prophecies about kings bowing before Christ? What if the entire narrative of the Magi is tied to a larger, deeper story of divine intervention, prophecy, and fulfillment, with Ethiopia at its heart? In today's video, we'll dive deep into these theories. We'll explore the possibility that the Magi were not just any kings, but Ethiopian kings with profound wisdom in astronomy, guided by ancient prophecies, bearing gifts from a rich and spiritually significant past. We'll uncover the hidden connections between the Magi, their gifts, and the spiritual heritage that spans generations. So, stay tuned. Let's uncover the truth that's been hidden in plain sight for centuries, and challenge what you think you know about the birth of Jesus Christ and the journey of the Magi. This is not just a tale of kings, but a journey of prophecy, legacy, and divine intervention. Subscribe now, and let's explore this mystery together. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men came from the east to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." The star they had seen in the east went before them, until it came and stood over the place where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they came into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, fell down and worshipped him. Opening their treasures, they presented unto him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. This account is narrated by the evangelist Matthew. Saint Matthew, in his Gospel, mentions that these wise men, known as the Magi, were scholars of profound wisdom who followed a star from the east to Bethlehem, near Jerusalem, where Jesus Christ was born. Matthew narrates that they brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, but he does not specify their country of origin or the number of men. The ambiguity surrounding the origin and the number of the wise men has puzzled many scholars and religious authorities. After extensive research and the study of ancient texts, scholars have proposed two main theories about the origins of the wise men, also known as the Magi. 1. The Ethiopian Origin Theory. The first theory suggests that the Magi were three kings, each possessing profound knowledge of astronomy. These kings were accompanied by 4 other kings and 10,000 soldiers each. Their followers, having heard that Jerusalem could not accommodate such a large group, and for other reasons, decided to turn back. However, the 3 kings managed to arrive, present their gifts, and share in the blessings of Jesus' birth. Historical texts assert that these 3 kings and their armies were Ethiopians. One of the key pieces of evidence comes from Numbers 24:17, where a star symbolizing Jesus Christ is prophesied to arise from Jacob's lineage, and even suggests that the star symbolizing Jesus Christ guided these wise men from the east. The person who spoke of this star was Prophet Balaam, and he was of Cushite descent. In those days, kings would annually travel to an eastern mountain to observe this star's rising. Thus, these kings, named Mentesimah, Didasfa, and Melku, along with their armies, would watch this star from the eastern mountain. They would watch as the Virgin Mary, holding her child, was surrounded by angelic stars. Since they decided to go Bethlehem without returning to their own country, the evangelist only states that they came from the east and does not confirm if they were kings of the east or people from the east. Therefore, since Balaam is a descendant of Cush, they bring the argument that it was the generations of Cush who heard this, not the generations of Shem and Japheth. There is another indication that these 3 people, whom we call the Magi, are from Ethiopia. This is further supported by the Psalms of David in the Old Testament, as noted by Christian believers. David, in Psalm chapter 72, verse 10, makes a remarkable statement, prophesying that kings would bow before Christ at his birth. Among the kings mentioned, the first he names is Ethiopia, stating, "Ethiopians will bow before him." Religious fathers and historians argue that the Magi, who traveled a long distance to present gifts of frankincense, gold, and myrrh to the child Jesus at his birth, were Ethiopians. They assert this by referencing Isaiah as further evidence to support their claim. In Isaiah chapter 60, verse 6, it is written, "Herds of camels will cover your land, young camels of Midian and Ephah. All from Sheba will come, bearing gold and incense and proclaiming the praise of the Lord." Therefore, the tradition that the 3 kings traveled with a large entourage, bearing gifts of gold and incense for the newborn Christ, is affirmed by the prophecy that they all came from Sheba. Consequently, there is no distinction between 1 or 2 kings. All came from Sheba. Another compelling piece of evidence that supports the theory of the Magi being Ethiopians is the cultural significance of naming months in Ethiopia. December is recognized by both Western and Ethiopian Christians as the month in which Jesus Christ was born. In Ethiopia, December is known as Tarsus. For Ethiopians, the name of this month is directly connected to the activities of the Magi. Tarsus means seeking, or the month of search, reflecting the Magi's journey to find Jesus. Only Ethiopians call it the month of search, which sets them apart from the rest of the world. When we look into it, we see that Christ was indeed born in this month. The 3 kings brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, asking, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star in the east and have come to worship him." Because of this, Tarsus is referred to as the month of search. If we say that the Magi were wise Ethiopians and their wisdom was based on astronomy and prophecy, then we must consider whether Ethiopians had such advanced knowledge of the stars at that time. The culture of the time in the region was deeply steeped in astrology and astronomy. Their entire way of life was guided by the movements and interpretations of the stars. It is possible that the star they followed to Bethlehem was one that they had anticipated and studied extensively. The advanced knowledge of astronomy among ancient Ethiopians significantly enhances the possibility of the Magi being Ethiopian. During ancient times, Ethiopians were renowned for their detailed observations of the stars and their profound understanding of celestial phenomena. This expertise in astronomy can be traced back to early civilizations in the region, where constellations such as Cassiopeia, Andromeda, and Cepheus were recognized and named. Considering this deep-rooted astronomical tradition, it is plausible that the Ethiopian Magi, guided by their knowledge of the stars, could have followed the Star of Bethlehem to witness the birth of Jesus Christ. Their proficiency in tracking and interpreting celestial events would have made them well-suited to embark on such a significant journey. Some scholars have stated that no one preceded the Ethiopians in offering esteemed and valuable gifts. They suggest that the tradition of traveling long distances to present gifts, as exemplified by the Magi, is deeply rooted in Ethiopian culture. For example, in 1 Kings chapter 10, it is mentioned that the Ethiopian Queen of Sheba, also known as Makeda, visited King Solomon with 120 talents of gold, large quantities of spices and precious stones. She posed challenging questions to him. The Holy Book notes that no other ruler has offered such a gift of perfume. Therefore, these items were likely abundant and not highly expensive in Ethiopia at that time. Consequently, it is believed that these gifts, including gold, frankincense, and myrrh, brought by the Magi, originated from Ethiopia. Historical evidence suggests that these gifts came from the wealth and resources of Ethiopia during the golden era of its kingdom. 2. The diverse origin theory. After examining and researching ancient texts, some scholars have proposed different theories about the origins of the Magi. They suggest that the Magi were descendants of Noah's 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. According to this theory, not all of them were Ethiopians. Instead, one is believed to have come from Europe, one from Asia, and the other from Africa. The one from Africa is said to be from the lineage of Ham, whose origins are in Ethiopia. Therefore, based on this analysis, it is concluded that one of the 3 Magi was Ethiopian. This is why, in movies and theatrical representations about the Magi's history, as well as in artworks found in European and Jerusalem churches, one of the Magi is often depicted as black. This was written by a person named Bell in the 8th century. He translated ancient texts that mentioned the 3 Magi, stating that they came from different countries. Specifically, he wrote that Melchior was the king of Persia, and he was very fair-skinned. He presented gold to Christ and is known as the king of Persia. Another, named Caspar, is noted to have presented frankincense and was identified as the king of India. Finally, Balthazar, the black or Ethiopian king, presented myrrh to Christ. This researcher noted that the Magi came from different regions, namely Persia, India, and Ethiopia. Were the Magi led by a star or an angel? It is said that these people were led by an angel, not a star as commonly believed. The proof given is that a star cannot be seen during the day, and it doesn't move low enough for them to see and follow. Some scholars also say that the star disappeared as they entered the city, guiding them only on their journey. Significance of the gifts. Each of the 3 gifts has its own significance. Gold, a traditional gift for kings in ancient times, was given to symbolize Jesus' eternal kingship. Frankincense, used by priests, represented his priesthood. Myrrh which was used in embalming, symbolized his future death. Indeed, there's an intriguing and profound hypothesis that adds another layer to the story of the Magi. It is said that the gold, frankincense, and myrrh that Noah gave to his 3 sons were passed down from Adam. Ancient texts such as the Book of Clement and the Book of Adam's Deeds, written around the 1st century, indicate this. What happened? When Adam intended to marry Eve, there was no dowry to give her at that time. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, each gave Adam gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, respectively. Adam then gave these gifts to Eve, who passed them to her descendants. Eventually, these gifts reached Noah, who took them aboard the ark. After the flood, Noah divided the gifts among his sons. Shem received the gold, Ham received the myrrh, and Japheth received the frankincense. This hypothesis adds a deep historical and symbolic significance to the gifts brought by the Magi. It suggests that these valuable items had been preserved through generations, carrying a legacy that culminated in their presentation to the newborn Jesus Christ. This connection highlights the continuity of divine providence and the sacred heritage that the Magi represented. Such a hypothesis underscores the importance of these gifts not only in their material value, but also in their rich spiritual and historical context, linking the story of the Magi to the earliest days of humanity, according to these ancient texts. Whether they were kings from Ethiopia or somewhere else, the story of the Magi reminds us of the universal quest for truth and the awe of witnessing something divine. Their journey and the gifts they brought have left an indelible mark on history. But perhaps the greatest gift they gave was their faith. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more thought-provoking content.